hello to Spieve McGeef, MD. Spieve is arriving late for his shift on the brand new Fulp station, and unfortunately, he is the only doctor on board. Spieve enters the medical facility. He notices that it is already in chaos. Bodies are lying on the ground as he gets shocked by the door. A mime pulls him inside and explains to him the situation. Spieve drags the other corpse into the medical facility, hoping to save his life. Unfortunately, most of the tables are taken up by other people, already with life-saving conditions. Spieve begins operating on a woman with life-threatening burns, knowing full well it will be a long operation. Spieve was unable to provide any major medical help and instead opted to leave her on the table, hoping a more experienced doctor would come along and save her life. Spieve then began working on his next patient, a moth woman in dire need of a new stomach. Finally, more doctors began to show up, as Spieve's patient died on the operating table, her soul departing, preventing any possibility for revival. Next, a human woman entered the ER. She was dead from a blunt force injury, but her soul was still there. If there was any chance of revival, Spieve was going to do whatever he could. The white tiles of the floor was now covered in a musty scarlet. Bright scarlet. Medical tools lay all over the place. Some used up, others not. The med center was steadily running out of supplies. Medicine, syringes, and other sorts of life-saving equipment was in dire short supply, and they needed to get some fast. Chemistry was not able to keep up with the demand of chemicals needed by the medbay, as revolutionaries and guards alike fought outside the doors of the medical center. But, in a rapid turn of events, Spieve found himself operating on the captain, who had suffered several open wounds from the fighting of revolutionaries trying to end his life. Quickly, Spieve ran to action, trying to save the captain's life. Luckily, the captain survived his surgery, and Spieve would not lose his medical license today. An hour later, the situation wasn't much better. Emergency surgery was now commonplace inside of the medical ward. Bodies were streaming in at a very steady rate, and the bed situation was in dire short supply. A little while later, it was much worse. The medbay was out of most burn supplies, most toxin supplies. The only things that were left were pills or anything else the chemistry ward could come up with. Either way, medicine was running dangerously low, and a solution needed to be found fast. At this time, janitorial staff finally arrived to start cleaning the blood-soaked floors. But new floors could not fix the problem at hand. Most, if not all, medicine was gone, and patients, especially toxic victims, were being turned away at the door. At this time, news made it to the medical bay about compromised air. Not knowing exactly what the threat was, Spieve donned a biohazard suit and an emergency oxygen tank. A few minutes later, the emergency shuttle arrived, and Spieve was one of the first to get on it. Passing by a monkey bludgeoned to death by another person, he made his way to the medical bay, ready to provide any services to anyone injured in the best way that he could. Eventually, the shuttle took off, and Spieve, along many others, would be the first to leave the station. What would come after is unknown, but at the moment, Spieve was alive and ready to help in any way he could.